Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this very special day because it's Joe Rao's birthday. And he'll be here in a moment. In the meantime, the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this special birthday day of his is brought to you by True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number for the best prices in town, be it hardware, gravel, topsoil, or you might need some equipment and tools for emergency preparedness in case we get a tropical storm. You can get it there at True Value, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. And also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs this holiday when it gets here. Whether you want your home decorated or maybe you want to do this as a business. Well, they're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York, on Long Island in Southwest Suffolk County, and their telephone number is 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. So, now that we got the business out of the way, we can let Joe Rao into the room. So let's do that. And he should be coming up momentarily. There's the box. And there's Mr. Rao on his very, very special day. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Joe Rao. Happy birthday to you. Well,
And
what?
and
What?
and many
Oh,
more.
and many. Oh, obvious. Oh, obvi. You're booked. You don't have time to leave this earth.
I have plenty of time. As I said to my friend Sam Storch last night, he wished me a happy birthday a day in advance. And I said, now all there is just the wait.
Oh, please. You know what? That is.
I've reached the final plateau.
Well, that's the final plateau, but it's a long way to go. You don't know when it's coming, and in the meantime, every day is
That's the scary part.
Every day is a good day.
You don't know when it's coming.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
because if you leave and you haven't cut the grass and you haven't, taken down the the trees and weeded the yard and all the rest of it.
Well, my day started every during the overnight. We always keep a glass of water on the counter, the kitchen counter, so that when you wake up at night or whatever like that, you might want to come into the counter and wet your whistle.
Yeah.
And I wet my whistle this morning, and then shortly thereafter we both got up, and Renata said, "What the heck is that?" And apparently a moth flew into the glass of water.
Oh, well, that's nice.
And I said, "Well, don't worry. He doesn't drink much."
Yes. Hang on, I just did a little technical glitch there. I lost the window, but now you're back. Look.
And then I went out to get the newspaper, and on my way back into getting the newspaper, I looked up in my garage, and the garage is peaked like this.
Mm-hmm.
And at the top of the garage, there are floodlights. There are 3 floodlights. And right next to one of the floodlights, I looked carefully, and I saw something that looked like a giant gray softball. What is it? Wasps, whatever, they build this nest or whatever. So probably when it gets dark enough, and now it gets dark around what, 8:10, 8:15 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go out there and go psh, with the insecticide to get that before it gets any bigger.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to minimize your picture on another screen that I have you on double screens here, and I keep doing it wrong so that you keep disappearing. And now, there we go. We're back again.
At one time, we are going to disappear, Joe.
Yeah, well,
We're going to be gone.
any bets that somebody will post up the question and say, well, you may be gone, but are you doing a show tonight?
Well, why don't we do a show?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Well,
right
let's
now.
start off. First of all, Joe, you have so many numerous happy birthday wishes there on the chat board from a whole host of folks. And we have 3 super chat hits tonight from William Huber, who says, happy birthday, Joe R. The chairman.
Wait a minute, hold on. Steve LaPont, or LaPointe, I'm sorry.
Steve LaPointe.
Yeah, 70 is old, but I'm not 70, so don't put me in that category yet.
No, not yet. William Huber, happy birthday, Joe R. With 5 beers and a smiley face and 2 thumbs up. The chairman, Scott Briller, happy birthday, Joe. You will be doing a YouTube video on the Perseid. Will you be doing a YouTube video on the Perseid meteor shower next week? And what moon phase will we be in? Haven't you
learned, Mr. Briller, every year when that meteor shower comes along, every year, it's always the same thing. We get all excited.
Cloudy.
Oh boy, here come the Perseid. Then cloudy. Except in those years when there's a brilliant, dazzling full moon, which blots out all but the very brightest of the meteors, which will happen next year. This year we have a favorable moon phase, but you know what that means? That means, so we'll see. We'll see if I get around.
And also we have a super chat hit from Mr. Michael McGuire, who says, happy birthday, Mr. Rao. Enjoy Vermont this weekend.
Yes, Vermont. We're gonna be heading on that and we'll get more into this as the weather progresses this evening, Joe. But I'm sure that you will agree with I that we get toward the upcoming weekend, and it's going to be getting progressively muggier and stickier and more humid. And that's why I just told Renata. I said, you can go out to Stellafane. You can interact with people like Dennis Cassia, who's on our list or whatever like that. I'm going to stay in the air-conditioned room.
Well, you do that.
Yes.
You do that. All right. So,
by the way, I'm now officially elderly. Did you know that? You're gonna feel this too when you get to be my age.
Look, as long as they give you senior citizens discounts, which I've already gotten.
I had to file today for what is called the New York State EPIC application. EPIC is the acronym for, now get this now, folks, Elderly Pharmaceutical Insurance Coverage Program. So yes, according to Governor Cuomo, I am now a member of the elderly set.
I didn't even know such a program existed.
Joe, you're going to learn a lot when you get to be.
I know when it's time to do. I know the Medicare application the year before is.
You're going to get deluged with all this confusion, and you're gonna you talk about sometimes when there's a weather event that you can't comprehend or you can't somehow manage to figure out how to forecast or you said you want to take a ice pick and drive it through your head.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna want to drive that and a couple other things through your head with Medicare. Anyway,
I get it. I understand. So,
Sonny.
So did you have?
What do we have on the weather?
Well, there's not a whole lot of weather going on, so just wanted to, real quick, Joe. What was your birthday dinner tonight?
I had my favorite. I had the spaghetti with the calamari with the squid.
Yes.
With the legs.
Yes. The tentacles.
Totally grossed out my daughter. I won't even.
Why? It's an Italian thing. That's the best part.
I know. But she says, of all the things that you could have asked for or requested for a birthday dinner, and you had to pick, and she shoved this out, and she says something. He says, "How come you eat this stuff?" But it was delicious. But my daughter did provide me with a lovely birthday gift, and here it is, right here.
Oh, what's his name?
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accents. But notice, if you will, Bob Ross is smiling against the black background. When you pour hot tea or hot coffee into this mug, all of a sudden, magically, up comes one of Bob Ross's paintings, greenish background with mountains and everything else. So you can have your own Bob Ross masterpiece appear every time you have a hot beverage in this cup.
Well, many, many happy returns of the day. I was going to try to find, actually, Lucille Ball's birthday, I believe, is in a couple of days. And I was looking for a video of the episode of her birthday, of Lucy's birthday, where they the park band sings "Friends of the Friendless."
The friends
of the friendless. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Oh, good
also
Lord.
Today,
by the way,
go
ahead.
Today's also the birthday of Jamie Yuccas, who is a newscaster and is currently covering the Olympics for CBS in Japan. And when she finished her report on the Olympics tonight, Nora O'Donnell said, "Thank you very much, Jamie, and happy birthday." And I said, "Hey, it's Jamie Yuccas's birthday. How come Nora O'Donnell didn't wish me a happy birthday?"
Well, you know who else's birthday it is today, Joe?
Who?
Butch Patrick.
Butch Patrick, Eddie from the Munsters.
Right. Now he's 7 years. He was born in 1953, so he's 68.
68.
Okay. So
I'd love to see him come walking down or running down the stairwell in those patent leather or patent black shorts now.
Yeah. All right, let's get going with the weather tonight, and
yes,
honestly, it's really a stretch tonight to. It's about as quiet a day as you can get in August because there's not really a whole lot happening from the standpoint of thunderstorms or severe weather, and all we really have is this nice, gorgeous air mass. And one of the things that's kind of interesting to me about this visible loop, Joe, is that the Northeast and the northern Mid-Atlantic states look to be mostly smoke-free, but then you look back across the upper Midwest and going back into all of the plains and then over me. But it's really interesting to look at the flow of the clouds because you can actually see the trough here doing its thing. You see those clouds that are streaming from north to south down to the Dakotas. This trough has gone, all the way down to northern Florida. And I didn't get out of the 70s today, and we had this sort of smoky, hazy sky, and now you're seeing those brighter white clouds that are streaming up from the southwest as we begin to see a little bit of wave development on the old frontal boundary. The old front that went through last night actually got pretty far to the south. It's got all the way down to southern Georgia, and that is going to be spreading into the Carolinas, and we're going to have to see how this plays out. I kind of thought, Joe, it does still look to me like there's two distinct little waves, one that comes up Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and then another one maybe Thursday night into Friday morning. And then after that, the ridge off the East Coast, which you can plainly see on the far right, east of the band of clouds with the frontal boundary, that ridge is going to build back, and we're just going to transition into very warm and humid conditions going into the weekend.
Absolutely correct, Joe. The fact that high pressure ridge offshore is going to literally flex its muscles is going to put a dent in the spell of lovely weather that we've been seeing. We've been getting these troughs every 2 or 3 days dropping down, ushering in a nice dry airflow from Canada. But now when we get toward the end of the week and the next trough approaches, what's going to happen is it's going to end up bumping into that building ridge offshore, and that will cause the next trough to kind of slow down a bit. Now, over the last 2 or 3 days, it had been indicated by some of the models that the frontal line associated with that trough would stall along the eastern seaboard. A little wave of low pressure would move up along it. And the European especially was very much into the camp of saying that, or indicating that wave of low pressure would come up and bring a spell of potentially heavy rainfall to parts of the Northeast for Friday into Friday night. Now it looks like at least the trough and the frontal line will be just far enough to the south and east of our area so that when that wave, if that wave does develop, it will probably spend most of its activity and moisture just to our south and east. It may very well brush our area, parts of our area, Friday and Friday night, especially Long Island, coastal New Jersey, everywhere, places from New York City on south and east, getting the rains, and areas to the north and west, like where I am,
You may not see
and
much of anything.
into upstate New York, may miss everything. So it's not looking quite so bad, but still, the fact that ridge of high pressure is building in, we get into the southerly flow, the warmer and more humid air, and we'll be seeing that. We'll be seeing the dew points climb today and into tomorrow. They've been hovering within a few degrees of 50, ridiculously low for the normally humid month of August. When we get to Wednesday, still comfortable, but not quite so comfortable, probably mid to upper 50s. Then Thursday, we hit the 60-degree dew point mark, and after that, we fly upward, probably low to mid 60s Friday and into the 60s for Saturday and Sunday. And even though it's not going to get overly hot, we'll have temperatures mostly in the mid and upper 80s, let's say, over the weekend. Combine that with mid to upper 60 dew points, it will get rather uncomfortable. By this time next week, we may just very well hit 90 degrees again. And that, with those 60s to maybe even near 70 dew points, means that next Monday will be quite a different story as opposed to what we had today out there.
Trisha Cucciaro's on the chat board, wife of Robert Cucciaro, who I worked with in several places along the way. Big hello. Good to see you on the chat board, Trisha. She wishes you a happy birthday, and say hello to Robert for me. I haven't seen Robert in a long, long time. We used to work together at Pix. We'd drive home together on some nights when we shared the same shift. And then there was some News 12 time, and then there was some other time that we spent over. So it was great, as always. Give him my best. Radar-wise, just absolutely silent in the east, save for a couple of specks in northern Maine. But then you get down into the southeast, and this is where we're seeing showers and thunderstorms. And actually, they're quite numerous in Alabama, southeast Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and in the southern half of Georgia. They're kind of creeping northeastward, and that's probably going to bring some heavy rains to those areas. And then eventually that all spreads up into South Carolina and at least into the eastern half of North Carolina and southeast Virginia as the first wave of two waves starts to rev up. Also seeing some patchy shower and thunderstorm activity over the state of Florida, some heavy downpours and a few thunderstorms running east-west across Texas, north and west of San Antonio. And out in the western part of the U.S., we're still seeing a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity in this has been going on for almost 2 weeks now, in Arizona, New Mexico, in Colorado, mainly west of 25, Route 25, Interstate 25, into Utah. They become really numerous in western Wyoming, on up into southeastern Idaho, and over into western Montana. So some monsoon action there. And also you're seeing some showers and a couple of thunderstorms starting to bubble up in Oregon. That is the only spot where the Storm Prediction Center has risk for today and for tomorrow in Oregon. The rest of the country, no severe weather forecast for the next 3 days. Just some general thunderstorms here and there. But as far as severe weather is concerned, kind of taking a break here. Because with the troughing in the east, you've got this cool, dry air mass that's relatively cool, dry air mass that's covering much of the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic states, and that is sort of putting the kibosh on instability and severe thunderstorm development. After last week, I think that's a good thing.
I think also tonight, Joe, into tomorrow, I heard a couple of weather forecasts on the radio today, and one of the personalities said, well, from what I can see here, tomorrow is going to be just as nice as today. And I disagree
to an extent. I disagree too.
I think, number one, we're going to actually, after a clear evening, I think that stuff that you've shown on the satellite picture, the high to mid-level cloud cover is going to start encroaching upon our area, so that we actually should say that after midnight we'll have increasingly cloudy skies. And tomorrow, I see a lot of clouds up there, not opaque necessarily, but mid and high level, but it's going to dim considerably the sunshine. It'll still get into the 70s, maybe even go to 80 or low 80s in a few spots, but it certainly is not going to have the same quality, the same pristine look as what we had out there today. Still, dew points will be way down for this time of the year, probably in the 50s, maybe even a few spots not getting much above 50 degrees. But then that high cloud band is just the beginnings of the change toward, again, more humid conditions, a slow buildup of that for the middle and latter part of the week.
Yeah, dew points even here dropped down. I did not. Once again, I didn't get out of the 70s today, and dew points were down around 60. So it was actually quite comfortable. The front came through yesterday evening, came down the mountain, and you could feel the dry air. It was such a nice breeze. And of course, with the smoky sky cutting down on some of the sunlight. Now, areas south of me, again, I'm 2,200 feet up, so it makes a huge difference. You know, you go down to south from Atlanta on southward, and temperatures reached up into the 90s. You can see the stalled frontal boundary. The part of the front that's close to eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, that's pushed way out offshore. And then it swings all the way back and comes inland in North Carolina and kind of snakes its way through coastal South Carolina, cuts Georgia in half, cuts Alabama, Mississippi in half. It's pretty far south for a front to get on the 1st of August, and we've noted that has happened a few times since June. So we're just kind of playing the same game here in terms of the upper air. But yeah, nice dry east-west oriented high pressure from Nebraska to Michigan. Dew points in the 40s and 50s. Up in New England, you had those 60 dew points in the upper 50s to near 60, making it pretty far south, and then extending back westward into the middle Mississippi Valley. Starts to get more humid once you get down, say, to Arkansas, Texas. Of course, it's south of the frontal boundary, which is where we're seeing the thunderstorms. WPC, rainfall-wise, actually cut the rainfall back with a half-inch line now cutting across just southeast of Boston, just southeast of New York City, to just southeast of Washington, D.C. And the orange area is 5 inches or 4 inches or more. That covers, it's kind of cut it back over there a little bit too. But they do show a 7 to 10 inch band right along coastal North Carolina, places like Wilmington, Elizabeth City, Cape Hatteras. Those areas all inside that 7 to 10 inch zone of rain. And several inches of rain down into southeast Georgia, lesser as you go north. And of course, you see large gaps there where they're forecasting no precipitation over the next 7 days. And they're still seeing some decent rains up from New Mexico to Colorado and then streaming northwestward up into Montana and Idaho. The south going down to California, Nevada, Utah, most of Utah now showing no appreciable rainfall for the next 7 days. So I kind of like the NAM in all of this. I was looking at all the models today. I kind of like the NAM's idea where you've got this one wave that comes out. A little ripple actually goes by to our south and east tomorrow, and then that goes by. And then there's a second wave that comes up for Wednesday night into Thursday. I think that kind of makes sense. And then that goes by, and then there's another little ripple that moves along Thursday night into Friday. And all while that's happening, if you look on the right, you'll see the surface high here start to build back westward. So once that last wave gets by, then you're going to see that high completely take over. And there's nothing really of consequence coming in from the northwest to push it out. And of course, with the ridge out in the Atlantic so strong and pushing back westward, we're going to just simply transition over into August, very warm, very humid conditions, the kind of days where you could see some scattered thunderstorms pop up here and there. I think that's what we're going to be transitioning over to into this weekend. There's nothing really major here going on.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And it's almost as if that big high offshore, that big subtropical high, is kind of like sitting out there and almost getting impatient and saying to that final wave that's passing through on Thursday, get out of here, get out of my way. And boom, it's in and it's locked in for Friday and on into the upcoming weekend. So it'll give you a real taste. A lot of people were walking around today and saying, it feels more like September is coming rather than the fact that it's in August. But I assure you, many of you, that by this weekend, it certainly is going to feel every bit like August. And by next Monday, it's going to be quite the different story in terms of potentially hot temperatures and also moderate to high levels of humidity. And on comes the air conditioner once again. The air conditioners are going to be, and fans are going to get getting a nice breather, so to speak, a nice little quiet period. But you'll certainly need them, I'm sure, to stay comfortable by later in the week, and especially the weekend and on into the start of next week.
All right. I was just looking at the new GFS here. The tilt of this front is northeast southwest, and the tilt of the trough also is northeast southwest, which is one of the reasons why, if you look at this tomorrow, that lead wave, it's got rain offshore. That's probably to be a little bit overdone, but for the most part, if you look at least the way the GFS has it, everything more tilted more to the southeast. I mean, it keeps the bulk of the rain out of here for this week. Like you mentioned earlier, we don't really see much of anything that happens as it goes on. And then again, on the weekend, you start to see, that high trying to build back. There is a little upper air disturbance that's moving across New England. It looks like a weak little front there on Sunday that makes it to the coast, and another high builds down from eastern Canada, but nothing big. Maybe just enough to turn the wind around to the east, perhaps Sunday night into Monday of next week, and then it's back to southwest flow after that. I mean, in a way, I mean, from a weather standpoint, it's sort of a snooze fest here with regards to what's going on for the weekend and next week. Keith James II hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you, Keith. And for Joe's birthday, Joe, he has a question, which while you're doing that, I'm gonna bring us back full screen, and then I'm gonna load the tropics a little bit here, and we'll take a look at what's going on out there. And even on the on the Atlantic side, it's a snooze fest. But Keith asks, what is nautical twilight, and what is astronomical twilight?
Okay, well, as you are well aware, because we have an atmosphere, when the sun goes below the horizon, it doesn't instantaneously become dark. There's still quite a bit of light, and that's due to the fact that the sunlight, even though the sun is below the horizon, that a lot of its light is being refracted and reflected off of the atmosphere. So initially, when the sun goes down, we are into what we call civil twilight. And Joe, at this time of the year, from the moment the sun goes down to when the last vestige of light or twilight disappears is about 2 hours. So generally speaking, you divide everything up. When the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon, or generally at this time of the year, it's about 40 minutes after sunset. From 0 to 40 minutes after sunset, that's civil twilight. Civil twilight is that the sky is still bright, even though the sun is below the horizon, but still bright, so that if you have a clear sky, you can still conduct regular outdoor activities without the use of any street lights or headlights on your car. In some parts of the United States, in the weather section, you will see a little box that says turn headlights on at, and that usually corresponds to the end of civil twilight, which again at this time of the year is about 40 minutes after sunset. Up until then, you don't really need your headlights to be turned on. You don't really need the street lights. Street lights don't generally start coming on until about 30 or 40 minutes after sundown at this time of the year. Now, nautical twilight is the time frame at this time of the year from 40 to 80 minutes after sunset. Nautical twilight is as the sky continues to darken, you begin to see a few stars in the sky, but it's still bright enough so that you can perceive, if you were out at sea, you could still perceive a horizon, a sea horizon. And when you no longer can see the horizon, when it's just too dark for you to notice where the horizon is, that's when we say the end of nautical twilight occurs. That's when the sun is 12 degrees below the horizon. Finally, you have astronomical twilight. And at this time of the year, locally for mid-northern latitudes, it's 80 to 120 minutes after sunset. The sky continues to darken. More and more stars begin to appear. In fact, During that time frame, astronomical twilight, you begin to take note of the fainter stars in the sky. And when the last vestige of twilight disappears completely and the sky is completely and totally dark, that is the end of astronomical twilight, and you are now fully in darkness. So those are the three twilights: the civil twilight, nautical twilight, and finally astronomical twilight. And the length of twilight varies during the year. Now it's 2 hours long from sunset to the end of astronomical twilight. In the wintertime, it's shorter. It runs only about 90 minutes from sunset to the end of astronomical twilight. And even more interesting, and I just told this to my son yesterday, or the day before. My son and my daughter-in-law now are in Hawaii, and Hawaii is at 17 degrees north latitude. And I asked them, I said, did you notice that where you are, the sun goes down, and within like an hour, it seems like it's completely dark. It seems like you have to wait a couple of hours for the complete darkness to arrive here. But in the tropics, the darkness, the twilight effect is much shorter. It runs only about an hour or so at the tropical latitudes where, again, my son is, or the Caribbean. And a lot of people who come from up here, from New York, for example, and are used to at this time of the year, waiting a couple of hours before it becomes fully dark after sunset. They go down to a place like Puerto Rico, for example, and within about an hour, they say, wow, it sure got dark real fast. It gets darker down across the tropics because the sun goes down at a more perpendicular angle to the horizon. And so the sun going down at that angle takes a lot of the twilight effect with it very quickly, as opposed to here in the mid-Atlantic area where, again, twilight tends to linger for a much longer period of time. There you go.
All right. So, speaking of the tropics, why don't we take a look at what's going on? I'm actually going to go to the Eastern Pacific. I'm not going to show the loop, but we have three systems. They're all less than 500 miles apart from each other. And in the middle...
Joe?
Yes?
Joe, can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
A familiar name is on the chat board.
Who?
And I think it's somebody that you and I worked with and had a great deal of respect. Doug Geed.
Really? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Douglas.
Hey, Doug.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Doug. Doug, we worked with him at News 12 for many years, and many years back. And Doug has been
Yes.
he is a mainstay and a legend at News 12. So it's nice to see you on the chat board tonight. See, Joe, this famous people watch this program.
Yes. Oh my God. Another name, and one
Oh,
I've never
yes.
seen on the chat board. My sister. My
Yes,
sister, for the first time, I seen her. Happy birthday to my bro. Well, hi, Lisa. I wonder if she's watching this on her big screen TV.
That's really cool. I get I get stunned to silence when all these famous people just jump on the chat board. It's
Yes.
it's a very cool thing. And on that note, Tim is asking one of the most personal and ridiculous questions. No, okay, is the answer, and we'll just leave it at that. And now let's go to the Pacific and take a look at these three systems that are all about less than 500 miles apart. You have Ignacio, which just became a tropical storm and will probably be a tropical depression, according to the Hurricane Center. They already have it weakened to a tropical depression during the overnight, and part of the reason for that is that it's getting impacted by the outflow from Hurricane Hilda, which is to the southwest of there, and to the southwest of that is a disturbance that the Hurricane Center says showing signs of organization and has a 60% chance of developing in the next 5 days. All are fish storms and of no consequence, and there's disturbed weather that's down off the coast of Central America. You can see the feathering of the high clouds. That's usually a sign that the disturbance has a little bit of firepower to it. So perhaps maybe over over the next week or so, we might wind up seeing something develop. At least the models are certainly trying to form some kind of hurricane there off the southern Mexican coast, moving northwestward, probably late this week or over this coming weekend. But for now, the Pacific is very active, and usually when the Pacific is active, the Atlantic side is on the quiet side. But it's relatively active. These storms are not really. We often get to see these storms fire up into Category 4s pretty quickly, but they're not doing that this year. We've had one, I believe, that fired up to a Category 4 while it was out there, and then it quickly weakened after that. Meanwhile, out in the Atlantic, we're just looking at the new GFS. We do have, and the Hurricane Center is actually talking about a tropical wave off the African coast that's moving northward toward the Cape Verde Islands. You can see that little low that the GFS shows over the Cape Verde Islands, and it sort of disappears. Then another one comes out at the end of the week and moves westward, and you see it closes off a little surface low there, but then it loses it as it moves along to the west-northwest. And we see just a series of weak waves coming off. I still think that if we're going to see something develop, it's going to be after August 8th or August 9th. So we got to get through this week. And maybe next week things will be a bit more active. And the reason for that, by the way, if you take a look, I'm bringing up the 200 millibar map. So we're talking about 25,000 feet or higher in the atmosphere. And we talked yesterday about the fact that right in the central Atlantic, you can see there's an upper low that is right there. Even the circle is still there from yesterday that I drew. Well, that upper low is creating hostile conditions throughout much of the subtropical Atlantic. And in the meantime, down in the tropical Atlantic down here, you've got all of this down here coming off the African coast. That is wicked easterly shear that is taking place. You're talking about upper air winds of 40 to 50 knots. So that's not helpful. That is not helpful. We always talk about westerly or northwesterly shear. Easterly shear is not helpful either when it comes to tropical cyclone development. Now, once that upper low disappears, we start to see upper level winds relax a little bit in the Atlantic, but there's still a lot of shear going on all through here, Joe, from the islands going east, north of 20 degrees north. It's westerly winds at 20 to 30 knots. I mean, this is just not conducive, and even higher. This is not going to be conducive to tropical cyclone development unless something were to stay down somewhere, down around 10 degrees north or south, at least south of 15 degrees north. But there's a lot here on the upper air that is not overly favorable for tropical cyclone formation over the next couple of weeks. But we'll have to see what happens after we get through this week. I still think next week something may try and pop up somewhere down in the tropical Atlantic once that shear relaxes. But it's going to be tough. You got too much. There's just way too much going on in the upper atmosphere right now out there.
And I mentioned yesterday that we're behind at least last year's record-breaking total. Last year at this time, at this moment, we were last year preparing for Itzia, and of course that's the I storm. The last storm for us so far this season is Elsa, the E storm. So we're trailing by 4 letters in the alphabet in terms of where we are so far in terms of tropical activity on the named list, and so that may bode well. It appears certainly that we're not going at such a rapid pace like we did last year in terms of tropical cyclones, but you never know. Things could really start picking up, later in August, or especially so into September. What was it just a few years ago, Joe, that the tropical cyclones season seemed to be moving very slowly, and so we haven't seen all that much in terms of action. All of a sudden we went into September and bang, I think we had like 7 or 8.
Well, yeah, it started in mid-August, right around mid-August, maybe around the 15th or 16th, and then it was one after another. Everybody was sitting around saying, I think the first storm in that series started with the letter E. I have to go back and look, which is kind of, we've already had the E storm. So there's nothing unusual about where we are, and there's nothing unusual about having these long stretches where things are quiet. Things don't automatically just turn on August 1st You know, sometimes they turn on sooner, sometimes they turn on later. It's just the way it is. Daniel Fitzsimmons asking, how come the Weather Service, goes back to 1869? That's the New York office goes back to 1869. But there are sites where you can see weather model site data. Metro Weather goes back to 1851. Yeah, there are some that go longer than 1869, but there was no. The Weather Bureau didn't have a ton of stations back in the 1860s. They had some, but they didn't have a lot, and then they gradually established more and more as time went on. So yeah, there are some stations that have databases that go back even before 1869. That's just the New York City Central Park goes back that far.
David Ludlum, the late great David Ludlum, a very famous weather historian, and of whom I have the great honor and privilege of becoming an acquaintance and then a good friend. He actually came across weather records that were kept by such people as Thomas Jefferson, going all the way back to the 1770s. It's kind of amazing. In fact, one of his books, he actually was able to create what he assumed would be the weather map with isobars and everything else for the time around the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So there were people, very assiduous weather observers, even going back to the 18th century, who were keeping records. But it wasn't until I think the Department of Agriculture here in the United States got things all together and started to create what we now know as the National Weather Service, or earlier days, the United States Weather Bureau. In fact, we celebrate every year on February 5th the very first official observation made by John Jeffreys, February 5th, back I think in 1870 or whatever, 1850 or something. That is, of course, started as National Weatherman's Day, but now it is known as National Weather Person's Day. So those observations do, in some cases, stretch all the way back to the very beginnings of our country, but the primary or the real solid observations, ones that we can hang our hats on, didn't begin until, again, around the 1860s or 1870s, and they run, in some cases, like at Central Park, all the way back from 1869 to this very day.
All right, it's time for a little Briller Jeopardy, and this one's going to be a little bit tougher than most, Joe. Okay, so it's a new category. So what we're going to do is you're going to replace each capital letter with a word to complete a thought. Okay, so for example, 12S of the Z, right? If I said to you 12S of the Z, you would respond by saying 12 signs of the zodiac.
Oh,
okay.
Good Lord.
I know. So this is gonna be a little bit tough. Okay. The first one.
No, it's gonna sound like it sounds like it's gonna be very tough.
Yes, it is gonna be. Okay. 8T on a O.
Say that again.
8, the number 8. 8T, yeah. The letter T, on an O. So a capital T on an right, a capital T and a capital O. 8T on a capital O.
I agree with you, Krishnapedia. Whoa, this is going to be fun. LOL. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Joe, all due respect to the chairman.
Oh, come on, have some fun.
I honestly,
you don't know.
8T. I don't know what
8T on an O.
Is the word omelet?
It could be 8T on. So 8. What would start with the letter T that you would put on an omelet? 8 tomatoes on an omelet?
Joe, this is going to be totally.
All right, I won't let you hang.
Completely.
I won't let you.
Explode. This is just going to explode in in both of our faces,
No,
and
no.
also, unfortunately, in the face of the chairman.
Eight tentacles
Does
on
anybody
an
have to-
eight tentacles on an octopus.
on an octopus?
Okay. Now here comes.
What are we playing? Are we playing?
Here,
Are we playing like Wheel of Fortune?
No, I think this was probably a Jeopardy thing. I think I've seen them do stuff like this. Okay, here's the next one. 9L of a C.
9L of a
Of a
C.
C.
My dear wife joining in the mockery of her husband of almost 37 years.
9 lives of a cat.
Thank you, Renata Rayo. Nine lives
No.
of a cat is the correct answer.
That was my daughter.
Oh, well,
Daughter
okay.
Maria.
Thank you, Maria Rayo. So now she's running the Macy's department upstairs?
Yes. I guess she
Okay.
is.
So it is
Basically, we better-
9 lives of a cat. Now here's the next one. Okay.
Right.
1,000 Y in an M.
In an M. 1,000 Y in an M. 1,000 Y in an M?
Mm-hmm.
1,000 Y in an M. $1,000 Y in an M.
Even the chat board is stymied. While you're thinking this through, Mark G hitting super chat.
Oh, okay, okay. Now I'm getting the hang of this.
Yeah. Mark G
1,000
just hit super
1,000.
chat, by the way. Happy birthday to you, and thank you for everything you do. Much appreciated.
I was going to say 1,000 years in a millennium.
And that is correct. 1,000 years in a millennium. Now here's the next one.
Yes.
Okay, this is kind of fun. 3BM SHTR.
What? 3B?
3BM SHTR. I just gave you the answer.
3BM SHTR?
Right. 3BM SHTR.
Oh, 3 blind mice?
Right.
3 blind mice. See how they run.
Right, correct. Now the last one you'll never get because I can't imagine any. This you're never going to get. So I'll just go. It's 9P in SA.
9P?
9P in SA. Yeah,
All right.
you're
All
not.
right. You know what? You know what? I typed something into Wikipedia. I did exactly. I said 9P in SA. And you know what it came up with?
Go ahead.
Like, I'm going to come up with something like this. Is this correct? 9 provinces of South Africa?
Yes, that is the correct answer. God.
Who the heck would come
God.
up with 9 provinces of South Africa? Oh,
Oh God.
give
And
me
I was
a
kind
break.
of when I first
Give me-
reading
God,
through
all due respect.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
9 peanuts and sangria.
Yes, exactly. Jason Schaefer hitting super chat, wishing you a happy birthday, Joe.
Yes.
So they
You
were
know
all
what's waiting for me upstairs? You know
What
what's
is?
waiting for me upstairs now?
what?
You're
Dessert?
not going to believe this, Joe.
Yeah.
You remember that pot? Remember that cake that Renata made 2 years ago?
Oh, she made it again?
No.
Oh,
But I wanted to see your eyes widen and your mouth start to drip.
right. Do you like
So she made me a lemon.
Do you
meringue
like
pie.
steak cooked? You're coming over for dinner tonight. Do you like steak medium rare, thick and juicy? Well, we're not having that tonight. I used to do that. I used to do that. I used to invite people over for dinner, and I would just verbally describe this most incredible meal, and until their mouth was watering in front of me, and I said, well, we're not having that tonight.
Look,
What?
a radish.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Schedule. All right, so, well, and go enjoy your birthday, and go enjoy whatever, I'm sure whatever Mrs. Rao baked, it is fantastic, because she did bake that butter pecan cake for me, and it was
Yes.
utterly
I told her
outrageous.
last night, I told her last night, I said, how difficult it is for you, would it be for you to make that? And she said, why? I said, because I want you to make it so I can hold it in front of the camera and show you.
I imagine she had that cake was a slice. You needed two hands. It was so heavy from
Right.
with all the butter that was in there and everything else. It was just an amazing.
Thelma from the Honeymooner said, I want you to lift this for me because I'm sickly.
Yes, exactly. It'd be like when Ralph tried to lift her suitcase.
Right. Which was
Funny.
very good acting, by the way, because you just know that in that particular episode, that suitcase probably didn't have much of anything in it, but he had to pretend, or he had to act like it must have had like a ton of bricks in it.
Yes.
To try to lift it up or whatever. So
exactly. Well, look, go enjoy your dessert and the rest of your birthday. Everybody, thank you for being here tonight to share in Joe's birthday, and to the super chat hitters, Jason Schaefer. We have Mark G, the chairman, also Keith James II, Bill Uber, and Michael McGuire, I believe, was the last one. I hope I got everybody. I did make it a point to say thank you to every person as the chat came up, because I didn't want to miss anything. So thank you very much, Joe. Some birthday money for you to put in your little piggy bank to spend at a later time.
I appreciate it. And thanks also to my sister who showed up tonight. And thanks also to Doug Geed, who came. And Doug, I hope that, don't want to speak for Joe. Joe, I'm sure, will echo my sentiment. We'd like to see you on board more often.
Yes. And on that note, everybody, we will see you tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Time. Hopefully there'll be a little more weather going on. There probably won't be.
Yes.
So have a good evening, everybody. Good night.
Nighty night.